So now, before we really jump into the data structures and algorithms, we need to revise three important things in the JavaScript, which will take few days to complete. One of those are arrays. Second one is called the functions. Third one is called the objects. So we will complete these three topics in few days, and then we will jump to the each data structure like stack, queue, linked list, and other data structures. So we will start those data structures after we are done with these three parts of the JavaScript. So now let's go to the arrays. We will start the arrays. Now we yesterday saw that array can be created as var variable name equal to empty array, and then I can add elements in an array, or I can remove the elements from the array. So to add the elements in the array, what function do we use? Put the function name in the chat. Push. So let's see how the push works, and then we'll do some push example. So let's open the browser. So this is the browser. Before I start, this is the today's word which you have to remember, and the word is called that do one thing every day that scares you. So you have to, what happened? I am not able to say in this. Okay. Yeah, splice, concatenation, push, and shift. Yeah, we will see splice and concatenation in some time. So let's talk about push now, because that's the basic we use, and we will see other methods also, concatenation and other methods also. So I will create one variable array. Let numbers is equal to an array, and if I say numbers, it's giving an empty array. Now I will try to add the elements in the array. So to add the elements in the array, I will use numbers dot push. I will say 11, for example, and I will say numbers. Numbers has one element, that is called 11. It has start with the 0th position. I will use another one, numbers dot push. Now I will add two elements, 12 and 13, and then I will say numbers. It will show me all the three elements. So one of the way to add the elements in the array is called as push, which we just saw. So syntax for the push is array name dot push and the element name. So whatever element you want to push in the array, you can put that element here. So this is the one thing which we do for the array. Now, when I use the push, it adds the element in the end of the array. So we have 11, 12, 13. If I say numbers dot push 14, it will add in the end of the array. 14 is coming at the end of the array. So what if I want to add the elements at the beginning of the array? So someone has mentioned unshift. So unshift is the way to add the elements in the beginning of the array. So for example, if I say numbers dot unshift 10, and if I do numbers, you will see 10 is added at the beginning of the array. Initially it was 11, and now 10 has come at the beginning of the array. So to add the element in the array, we use push, and we also use unshift. So the syntax for unshift is add dot unshift, and we put the element in it. So this is the way to remove the element or to add the element from the first to add the element from the beginning of the array. Now, what is the function to remove the element from the end of the array? Put it in the chat. What is the pop? So if I want to remove the element from the end of the array, we use the pop. So pop is the function to remove the element from the end of the array. I will say add.pop. Once I say add.pop, it will remove the element from the end of the array. So here I will say numbers.pop. Yes, I'll say pop. So it will remove the element from the end of the array, and it's saying 14. That is 14 is removed from the array. So now if I type numbers, it will remove, it does not contain the 14 element, which is the last element in the array. So we use pop to really remove the element from the end of the array. Now what will be the function to remove the element from the beginning of the array? So okay, splice is also there, but we will see splice sometime. But right now we are working on the shift and pop. So let's do the shift part. Splice we'll see in some time. Splice is can be removed element from the any part of the array. So let's use the shift one, and I will use air dot shift to remove the element from the beginning of the array. So I will say numbers dot shift. So it will remove 10. Now if I type numbers, it will show 10. That is without the first element, that is a 10. So this one was all about to add the element at the beginning, at the end, at the beginning, to remove the element from the end, from the beginning. Now, if we want to add or remove element from the from a specific position, whatever it is, a specific position, it can be anywhere in the array, we use the syntax called as splice. Yeah. So we will use the syntax called as a splice. So let's take one example of the splice. So let's create another variable called as let. We'll create another number equal to an array, and I will create some values in it. Maybe I'll say -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I created a numbers. Okay, a numbers already declared, so it does not allow to declare it. So let's create another array, because once we use let, it does not allow it to rename it. Let's say numbers 2. Now, what is the syntax of the splice? Let's go to the syntax of the splice. So splice works like this way. I will say array, and then I will use a splice. And here, first part which I will pass in the splice is the position from which I want to remove the element. Position. Second parameter which I will pass is how many elements I have to remove. Let's say number of elements. So this is one of the syntax which we use in the Splice. Another syntax which we use in the Splice is like this. Add.splice, I will say position, that is from which position I want to remove the element, and how many element I have to remove, number of elements which I have to remove. And after that, if I want to add some more elements at that position, I will add this extra elements which I want to add. New elements to be added. I will put like this. So these are the two types of syntax which you will use when I want to only remove, and here in this case I want to remove and add the new elements. And in this second case, if I don't want to remove the element but I want to add the element, then I will pass 0 for the number of elements. So number of elements should be 0 if I don't want to remove any element. So we will see some of the examples, and then I will ask some of the examples from you. So let's do the splice little bit in the little bit more. Okay, we have the numbers 2. I type numbers 2, I get all the values -3, -2. So I will tell you one example and then I want answer from you. So I will say numbers dot splice. Let's say if I want to remove from the fifth element and I want to remove only one element. So tell me which element will be removed if I type this line. So this is the number 2, it's the numbers 2. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is this one, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will remove 1, that is the 2 will be removed. So it's correct 2. And let's say if I remove 3, I say 3. So which elements will be removed? 2, 3, and 4. So let's do this one. I will enter and it's saying 2, 3, and 4 are removed. So now if I type numbers 2, you will see 2, 3, and 4 are removed. Now tell me what will happen if I type this one, numbers 2 dot splice pi comma 0 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. What will happen when I pass this one? So it will add 2, 3, 4 again from the fifth position. So I will say numbers 2. So you will see 2, 3, 4 has been added again. Now tell me what will happen if I say numbers 2 splice pi comma 3 and then I'll say 2 comma 3 comma 4. What will happen? Same view, because here I am saying 5, remove the 3 elements, that is 2, 3, 4, and then I'm adding it again 2, 3, 4. So the result should be same. So if I type numbers 2 now, so we have the same result, that is 2, 3, 4 is there because I removed 3 elements and I added same 3 elements again. So this one was about the splice, that we can remove any number of elements from particular position and we can add any number of elements at any position. So this one was the about the splice. Any questions on the splice or push, unshift, pop, shift? We saw a few examples on this one. Okay, now let's move to some other functions. There are many other functions in the array which we will go through in one by one. So let's go through one by one. So another function which we have is for joining multiple arrays. To join multiple arrays, one of the function which we use is called as concate. So this is concatenation of the arrays. So let's take some example and we will use that example. So I will let's create one example. So for example, if I have variable 0 equal to 0, I have another variable called as positive numbers equal to an array of 1, 2, 3. Let's say I have another set of array negative numbers equal to -3, -2, -1. So we have three things. One is called 0, purely one element. This is an array of positive numbers. This is an array of negative numbers. Let's say we want to create one array. What will be the join of these three variables? We will use a concatenation. So let's say if I use a variable called as numbers, or I will say num1 equal to. So I have to start with any one of the three variable. So let's say I will start with negative numbers. So I will say negative numbers. Then I will say concatenation. And in the bracket, I will pass all other variables which I want to concatenate. So for example, I want to, after negative, I want to concatenate 0, and then I want to concatenate positive numbers. I will say enter. Now if I print num1, it will take all negative numbers because we started with the negative numbers. Then we concatenate with the 0, that is 0 here. Then we concatenate the positive numbers and we get this positive number. So this is how we use the concatenation of the arrays. So this is my 0, this is my negative numbers, this is my final number, and this is the output for the concatenation. Is that clear? Okay, now let's go further. We will use some other methods in the array. Those are called as iterator functions, and one of the iterator function is called as sp. Another iterator function is called sum. Let's see what are these two functions. So before I go and use these two functions, let's create some helper functions. So one of the helper functions I will create is called isEven. So before I write isEven, can anybody write a function how to get the even number? So if I pass a number 3, it should return me true or false. If it is even, it should say true. And if it is odd, it should say false. So can anybody tell me what will be the content of isEven function? How will I know that it is even or odd? Okay, so always we have to use mod sign to check if the function is odd or even. Does everybody know what is the meaning of this mod sign? That is this percent sign. Anyone who don't know the meaning of this percent sign? Okay, so if I want to see if it is even number, I will say x percent 2 is equal to 0, and if this is true, then it is even number. And if I say x percent 2 is not equal to 0, then it is, if this is true, then it is odd number. So we will create two function. One is called even and second one is called odd. I will create a function equal to function. I will pass the value in it, and I will say console.log of is when take x is x, and here I will say return x percent 2 is equal to 0, then return true, else return false. So this is the function I created for the even. So for example, if I pass is even 2, it is returning true to me, and if I say is even 3, since 3 is not the even, it returns the false. Right. So yeah, it's true. Ternary operator is not required. I can directly say, it directly evaluates to the true or false. So true. So I can write this as, because this is either true or false, no ternary operator is needed. Okay, correct. Sapandra is correct. Thank you for correcting me. I have written this, I have seen on internet, some person has written like that and I showed that, but that is correct. We can skip that ternary operator. Let's create another function that is called is odd equal to function x, and here I will say console.log is odd check x is x, and then I'll return x percent 2 is not equal to 0, and I'll return this one. So let's check this function is odd. I'll pass 2 first, so it will say false. Is odd, I will pass 3, it's saying true. So both functions are fine. Let me copy those two functions in the notepad so we can have a notes. This is even, and this is odd. Okay, now we will go to our two functions which I was saying. One of them is every and one of them is sum. Now let's try to understand what both have. What is the meaning of both is there. So every function, if I open this, so this every function, it goes through each element of the array. It goes through each element of the array till the return of the function is false. So it goes through, let's say I'm passing through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it goes through all the elements of the array. Once it gets the false answer, it will return that one. So it will return the false whenever it gets the first false. So to show the example of it, we will do like this. Let's create one array. Maybe I can say num2 equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is an array, and now I will pass this array with the every function. So I will say num2 dot every, and in the bracket I have to pass the function. So each value will go through that function, and once the false will come, it will come out of that every method. So for example, I will pass is even. So if I pass is even, it will go to the first element, whether one is true or false, whether it's even or odd. So it is odd. So that means even will give the result of false. And when the is even will give result, when the is even will give it result of false, it will come out all of the loop of this every. Every will iterate through all the elements, and once it gets the false, so it takes each element of this array and it will process it with this function. And as soon as this processes with this function, and if the result is false, it will come out of this every function. So if I press enter, it will take this one number and it will process through even, and since the result is false, it ends here. It will not go to the 2 number or 3 number or 4 number. Let's process this every with the odd. I will say num2 dot every is odd. So once I process with odd, it will pass 1 to this odd function, and the result will be true. That means it will not come out of this function. It will go to another element. And since 2 will be passed to is odd function, and since 2 is not an odd, so result will be the false. So it will come out of this every function. So if I press enter, you will see first time it is running with the first number and the result is true in the first case. So it processes again to the second element, and in the second element 2 is not an odd, so the result is false. So it will come out of the every function because we get the false result. So what every does, every processes iterates through each element of the array, and once it gets the false, it will come out of the every function. In the first case, we are using even, so that means in the first part only it will get false result, so it is coming out of the first loop. In the second case, we are passing odd, so in the odd case we are getting this part as a true, and so it will process again for the second element, and in the second element it is getting the result of the false, so it is coming out of the second loop and it is not going further in the array. So these are the two use case of every function. Let's go further and we will use the sum. Now we will see the example of the sum. So if I pass num2 dot sum, and if I say is even, so sum is different from the every, that every will see the false and it will come out. Sum will see true and it will come out. So when I pass num2 with sum and I pass the is even function, then 1 will give the false result because 1 is not even. So it will go to the second element because sum will return only if the result is true. So in the first case, result is false, so the sum will not return it. But in the second case, the result is true, so sum will return it. So if I say enter now, it's going to the first case and then it is going to the second case and it is returning after the second. It will not proceed to all other elements because it gets the true in the second case. Now if I pass num2 with sum and I will pass is odd. So if I pass is odd, then it will take the first element 1 and the result is true because 1 is the odd, then it will not go to the other elements of the array. It will come out of the sum function after the first element. So if I say enter, it will check the first element, it will come out of the first element. So the sum comes out if we get the true value and every comes out if we get the false value. Is that clear? Okay, so now we have other functions also which we will see on Monday. Next class will be on Monday because tomorrow I am not available. So we will see some of the functions on Monday. So two functions I will tell you which I will see on Monday. Those functions are map, filter, and reduce. We will see these three functions on Monday. These are very important functions when we work in the real life examples. When we build some project, these three are the important functions. I haven't used reduce too much in my practical life, but I have used these two a lot in my projects. But I will explain you all the three on Monday and we will go through some more functions of the array on next week. And then we'll start with the functions and objects. After we are done with the array, we will start with the functions and objects. So these three things are very basic to understand the data structure. And once we complete these three things, we will start with the real data structures and algorithms. So when I start with the real data structures, we should also know some of the React framework. So hopefully yesterday you installed Create React app, and in few days I will show you how to install the React and how to work in the React. Because when we build these data structures, we will try to make small projects which uses React framework. So if you don't know, try to learn React by that time. And if you don't know how the React works, then I will explain you React in short version. I will not go into the detail of the React framework in this class, but I will show you the small code how the React works, which is sufficient for our course. I will not go into detail, but I will show you something which will be helpful for you to build the project which is used in our data structure. So you don't need to understand the whole React framework, but you should only know the basics of the React to work for the data structures. Is that clear? So we will see, and hopefully yesterday's video everybody got it because I emailed to you the YouTube link.